Princess Zara of the Velkari Empire had seen many species kneel before her throne. The reptilian Scarth, with their razor claws, the crystalline Nethys, who could shatter steel with their voices, the massive Gorvak, whose hide could stop plasma bolts. All of them showed proper respect when they entered her presence. The human standing before her now did neither of these things. He was unremarkable in every way that mattered to galactic politics. Average height for his species, maybe 6 feet tall. Brown hair that looked like he cut it himself. Clothes that had seen better days. A simple gray jacket over dark pants, both showing wear from long travel. No visible weapons, no ceremonial armor, no signs of rank or status. He looked like exactly what his papers claimed he was, a maintenance technician from some backwater human colony. "Your name is Marcus Chen," Princess Zara read from the datapad, her voice carrying the authority of someone born to rule. "Says here you're requesting passage to the frontier worlds to work on atmospheric processors." "Yes, Your Highness." His voice was calm, respectful, but not fearful. Most beings stammered when they first spoke to her. "And you can afford the protection fee for traveling through Velkari space?" "I can pay what's fair." Princess Zara's 3 eyes studied him carefully. The Velkari were predators by nature, evolved from creatures that hunted in packs across their homeworld's crimson plains. Her people could sense weakness, fear, desperation. This human showed none of those things. Interesting, but not concerning. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as a peaceful species. Traders, diplomats, engineers, useful in their own way, but hardly threatening. "The protection fee for civilians traveling to the frontier worlds is 50,000 galactic credits," she stated. "Payable in advance." She expected him to balk at the price. Most beings did. The Velkari Empire controlled the safest routes to the outer systems, but they charged accordingly. 50,000 credits was enough to buy a small starship. Marcus Chen reached into his jacket and pulled out a credit chip. "Will this cover it?" Princess Zara's aide, a nervous Scarth named Vitex, scanned the chip with trembling claws. His eyes went wide. "Your Highness, this chip contains 200,000 credits." "Keep the extra as insurance," Marcus said simply. "Space is dangerous." The princess leaned forward in her throne. 200,000 credits was serious money. Either this human was far wealthier than he appeared, or far more desperate than he acted. Neither option made complete sense. "What exactly do you do on these atmospheric processors?" she asked. "Fix things that are broken. Install new systems. Sometimes I have to go places that are too dangerous for regular maintenance crews." "And what makes you qualified for dangerous work?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "I have experience with hostile environments." Before Princess Zara could ask what he meant by that, the great doors of the throne room burst open. Her head of security, Commander Thane, rushed in with his squad of elite guards. Thane was a Gorvak, 8 feet of muscle and armored hide, and Princess Zara had never seen him look worried. "Your Highness," Thane's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "We have a situation. The Deathstalkers have escaped containment." Every being in the throne room went perfectly still. The Deathstalkers were the reason the Velkari Empire charged such high protection fees. Native to the asteroid fields between star systems, they were pure predator, 10 feet of claws, fangs, and hunger wrapped in nearly impenetrable carapace. The Empire kept a few in captivity for research purposes, but even in the strongest containment, they were incredibly dangerous. "How many?" Princess Zara demanded, already rising from her throne. 3 adults. They've already killed 6 guards and are moving toward the civilian areas of the station." The throne room erupted into controlled chaos. Guards activated energy shields and drew weapons. Civilians who had been waiting for audiences screamed and ran for the exits. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the station. Marcus Chen stood exactly where he was, apparently unaffected by the panic around him. "Human," Princess Zara called to him as she strapped on her ceremonial armor, "you'll want to get to the evacuation shuttles, now." "If it's all the same to you, Your Highness, I'd prefer to stay and help." Princess Zara stared at him. "Help? You're a maintenance technician. I told you I have experience with hostile environments." Before she could argue, the main lights went out. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red. Through the throne room's reinforced windows, they could see chaos in the station's main corridor. Beings of a dozen species ran screaming as something massive moved through the shadows between them. Commander Thane's communicator crackled. "Sir, Delta Squad is down. Epsilon Squad is falling back to Section C. These things are too fast. Our weapons are barely scratching them." "What about the civilian evacuation?" Princess Zara demanded. "Shuttles can't launch while the creatures are near the docking bays. They're attracted to engine heat." The situation was rapidly becoming a disaster. 3 Deathstalkers loose on a civilian station was a nightmare scenario. Each one could tear through a dozen armed guards without taking serious damage. Their hide was nearly as strong as starship armor, and they were smart enough to use tactics. "Your Highness," Marcus said quietly, "how long since they escaped?" "What does that matter?" Thane growled. "Because they hunt in a specific pattern. Pack predators always do." Marcus's voice was still calm, but there was something different about it now. An edge that hadn't been there before. "They'll have split up to cover more ground, but they'll reconvene at the central hub in about 15 minutes to share information about prey locations." Princess Zara found herself listening despite the situation's urgency. "How do you know that?" "Because I've hunted things like them before." The way he said it made her look at him again. Really look. She had been so focused on his unremarkable appearance that she'd missed other details. The way he moved with perfect balance, despite the chaos around him. How his eyes constantly tracked the room's exits and potential weapons. The fact that while everyone else showed at least some sign of fear, his heart rate hadn't even increased. "You're not really a maintenance technician," she realized. "I am, but I wasn't always." Marcus turned to Commander Thane. "What weapons do your people carry?" "Plasma rifles, shock batons, energy shields," Thane listed. "And none of it's working because Deathstalker hide is designed to disperse energy. You need projectile weapons, preferably something with enough kinetic force to crack their carapace." "We don't have anything like that on board." Marcus nodded toward the ceremonial weapon displays that lined the throne room walls. "Those aren't just for show, are they?" Princess Zara followed his gaze. The displays held weapons from a dozen worlds, collected over centuries of Velkari expansion. Most were primitive by galactic standards, but they had been chosen for their historical significance and craftsmanship. "Those are priceless artifacts," she protested. "Your Highness, with respect, they're also the only things on this station that might actually kill a Deathstalker." Marcus walked over to one display and examined a massive crossbow designed for Gorvac hunters. "This will work." "You can't possibly be serious. You're talking about fighting 3 apex predators with museum pieces." "Not museum pieces, tools." Marcus lifted the crossbow, testing its weight and balance. Despite being designed for 8-foot Gorvac warriors, he handled it like he'd used one before. "The problem with modern weapons is that everyone assumes energy is better than kinetic force. But sometimes old ways work better." Commander Thane's communicator erupted with screams and weapons fire. "All squads, fall back! Fall back! Charlie Squad is— Oh no! Commander, Charlie Squad is gone!" The sounds of battle were getting closer to the throne room. Marcus selected several more weapons from the displays. A compound bow designed for precision hunting, a bandolier of what looked like explosive-tipped arrows, and something that might have been a spear launcher. "You can't go out there alone," Princess Zara said. "Even if you're not really a maintenance worker?" You're still just one person." Marcus turned to look at her, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes that made her step back. It wasn't anger or excitement or even fear. It was the look of a predator that had just recognized worthy prey. "Your Highness, on my home world, humans aren't the dominant species. We had to learn to survive alongside things that were bigger, stronger, and better armed than we were. The only reason my species made it to the stars is because we're very, very good at killing things that think they can't be killed." He moved toward the throne room's main door, carrying his improvised weapons. The corridor beyond was dark, except for emergency lighting, and somewhere in that darkness, 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators were hunting. "Wait!" Princess Zara called after him. "What's your real name? Your real occupation?" Marcus paused at the doorway without turning around. Marcus Chen, formerly of the Colonial Marine Advanced Reconnaissance Division. These days, I really do fix atmospheric processors. It's more peaceful work. Then why are you doing this? Now he did turn back and smiled for the first time since entering her throne room. "Because, Your Highness, there are children on this station, and where I come from, adults who let children get hurt by monsters don't get to call themselves human anymore." The throne room door sealed shut behind him, leaving Princess Zara staring at where he'd been. Through the reinforced windows, she could see his figure moving through the dark corridors with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. Commander Thane's communicator crackled again. "All remaining squads, hold position at the evacuation points. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." "Sir," came a confused voice, "we're reading some kind of projectile weapon fire near Section B. But all our squads are accounted for." Princess Zara pressed herself against the window, trying to see into the shadows. Somewhere out there, a human who claimed to be a maintenance worker was hunting 3 apex predators with weapons that belonged in a museum. She was beginning to suspect that before this night was over, she was going to learn something about humans that the rest of the galaxy didn't know. Marcus moved through the station's corridors like a ghost. The emergency lighting cast everything in deep red shadows, perfect for hiding from creatures that hunted by heat signature. He had disabled the thermal regulators in his jacket, letting his body temperature drop to match the ambient air. It was an old trick from the war, back when humans had to fight things that could see in spectrums they couldn't. The first Deathstalker was in Section C, near the main shopping district. Marcus could hear it before he saw it, the distinctive scraping of claws on metal plating and the wet sounds of feeding. Someone hadn't made it to the evacuation point in time. He crept to the corner and peered around. The creature was 30 meters away, crouched over something Marcus tried not to look at too closely. Deathstalkers were even more impressive up close than in the containment footage. 10 feet of evolutionary perfection, built for one purpose: killing. Its carapace was matte black with silver streaks that helped it blend into asteroid shadows. 6 legs ending in claws that could puncture starship hull plating. A head that was mostly mouth, filled with teeth designed to tear through whatever they bit. Most species would have seen an unstoppable killing machine. Marcus saw a target with 3 major weak points. He pulled the Gorvac hunting crossbow from his back and loaded one of the explosive-tipped bolts. The weapon was crude compared to modern plasma rifles, but it had one major advantage. It was completely silent when fired. Energy weapons always made noise. Projectile weapons didn't have to. The Deathstalker's head was armored like the rest of it. But evolution had given it eyes, and eyes needed to be soft to function. Marcus took careful aim and waited. Patience was the most important skill any hunter could learn. The creature would move eventually, and when it did, it would give him the shot he needed. 2 minutes later, the Deathstalker lifted its head to scan for new threats. Marcus squeezed the trigger. The bolt took the creature through its left eye, penetrating deep into the brain before exploding. The Death Stalker collapsed instantly, its nervous system destroyed. One down. Marcus was already moving before the body hit the ground. Death Stalkers were pack hunters, which meant the other two would have heard their companion's death cry and were already converging on his location. He had maybe 3 minutes before they arrived. He made it to the next intersection before the hunting howls started. The sound was like metal tearing, designed to paralyze prey with terror. It worked on most species. Humans, unfortunately for the Death Stalkers, had evolved alongside predators that made similar sounds. Marcus's adrenaline spiked, but his hands stayed steady. The second Death Stalker came around the corner at full speed, moving with the fluid grace of something that had never met an opponent it couldn't kill. It saw Marcus and immediately launched itself forward, claws extended, mouth open in a roar that would have shattered glass. Marcus had been ready for exactly this. He dropped to one knee and brought up the spear launcher, a weapon designed for hunting the massive boar whales of Antara's prime. The creature was 3 meters away when the spear took it through the chest, the projectile's kinetic force driving it backward into the corridor wall with a crash that shook the entire section. The spear hadn't killed it. Death Stalker vitality was legendary, but it had pinned it in place. Marcus drew the compound bow and put 3 arrows into the creature's throat in rapid succession. Each arrow was tipped with a focused explosive charge designed to detonate only after penetrating armor. The Death Stalker's struggles weakened, then stopped. 2 down. Marcus's communicator, tuned to the station's emergency frequency, crackled to life. "Unknown hostile, this is Commander Thane. Identify yourself." "Maintenance tech doing maintenance," Marcus replied, scanning the corridor for the third Death Stalker. "Though I admit this isn't my usual job description." "You just killed 2 Death Stalkers with museum pieces. That's not normal maintenance." "Your Highness asked me what I did before fixing atmospheric processors. The answer is, I killed things that needed killing." Marcus paused, listening. The station was too quiet. The third Death Stalker was being smart, which made it the most dangerous. "Commander, where are your people positioned?" "Evacuation Point Alpha, near the main docking bay. We're guarding the civilians." "And the creature?" "Unknown. We lost track after you engaged the second one." Marcus closed his eyes and focused on sounds. The station's environmental systems humming. Distant voices from the evacuation point. The slight vibration of docked ships through the floor plates. And there, a scratching sound from above, in the maintenance ducts. The third Death Stalker wasn't hunting him. It was going for the civilians. Marcus ran. The evacuation point was 5 sections away through corridors filled with debris from the battle. Marcus moved as fast as he could while staying silent, loading his remaining weapons as he went. The compound bow held 12 arrows. The crossbow could fire 6 more bolts. After that, he'd have to rely on improvisation. He reached the observation deck above the evacuation point, just as the third Death Stalker dropped from a ventilation shaft into the middle of the terrified crowd. This one was the largest of the 3, and smart enough to position itself between the civilians and the exits. Commander Thane's guards opened fire immediately, but their plasma bolts scattered harmlessly off the creature's hide. It roared in challenge and began stalking toward a group of children huddled near their parents. Marcus didn't have a clear shot from his position. Too many civilians in the way. He needed to get the creature's attention and draw it away from the crowd. He stood up on the observation rail and shouted, "Hey, ugly!" The Death Stalker's head snapped up toward him. For a moment, Predator and human stared at each other across 30 feet of empty space. Marcus could see intelligence in those dark eyes, and something else. Confusion. This creature had never encountered prey that hunted back. Marcus smiled and dropped a fragmentation grenade into the middle of the evacuation area. The explosion wasn't meant to kill the Death Stalker. He knew better than that. It was meant to disorient it and scatter the civilians to safer positions. As smoke filled the area, Marcus leaped from the observation deck, using his jacket to break his fall on the creature's back. The Deathstalker thrashed, trying to throw him off, but Marcus had expected that. He drove a shaped charge into the joint where the creature's head met its neck, the one place where the carapace couldn't be too thick without restricting movement. The explosion severed the creature's spinal cord, and it collapsed. Marcus rolled away from the dying predator and found himself face to face with a small Scarth child who had gotten separated from her parents in the chaos. She looked up at him with large, frightened eyes. "It's okay," he said gently, picking her up. "The monsters are gone now." Commander Thane approached cautiously, his weapon still drawn. The massive Gorvak looked shaken. "I've never seen anyone fight like that. You moved like you knew exactly what they were going to do." "I did know." Marcus handed the child to her parents, who had appeared from behind an overturned bench. Deathstalkers are ambush predators that rely on fear and overwhelming force. Take away their ability to intimidate, force them to fight on your terms instead of theirs, and they're just another dangerous animal. Just another dangerous animal? Princess Zara's voice came from behind them. She had arrived with the medical teams, still wearing her ceremonial armor. "Those creatures have killed entire military squadrons." "With respect, Your Highness, military squadrons fight like military squadrons. Same formations, same tactics, same weapons everyone expects. I don't fight like anyone expects." Marcus began collecting his improvised weapons from around the evacuation area. Several of them were damaged beyond repair, and he handled them with obvious regret. "I'm sorry about your artifacts. I know they were valuable." "They were." Princess Zara studied him carefully. "But not as valuable as the lives you saved with them." The evacuation area was returning to something resembling order. Medical teams treated the injured while security teams confirmed that no more threats remained. The civilians, mostly families with children, looked at Marcus with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. He was clearly not what he had appeared to be. "Marcus," Princess Zara said, "I need to ask you something directly. What are you really doing out here? The frontier worlds are dangerous, and you're obviously capable of far more than atmospheric maintenance." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the families around them. "Your Highness, the galaxy thinks humans are peaceful because that's what we choose to be. We're traders and diplomats and engineers because we want to be those things. But we come from a world where everything wanted to kill us, and we survived by being better at violence than anything else." "Then why hide it? Why pretend to be something less?" "Because fear changes how people treat you. And because there are humans who've forgotten that violence should always be a last choice, not a first one." Marcus shouldered his remaining weapons. "I work on atmospheric processors because life is about more than just survival. But sometimes, survival comes first." Commander Thane stepped forward. "The frontier worlds are more dangerous than you know. Pirates, hostile wildlife, corporate wars. Why risk it?" "Because that's where people are trying to build something better, and they need help doing it." Marcus looked around the evacuation area one more time. "Besides, Commander, someone has to maintain the equipment that keeps the air breathable and the water clean. That might not be as exciting as fighting monsters, but it's just as important." Princess Zara realized something. "You could have told us who you really were from the beginning. You could have demanded military transport, security escorts, priority treatment. Instead, you paid civilian rates and asked for nothing." "Your Highness, the moment I tell people I used to be a colonial marine, they start seeing me as a weapon instead of a person. I've spent 5 years learning to be something other than a soldier. I'm not eager to go back to that." The medical teams had finished their work. The casualties were lighter than anyone had hoped. 3 dead, a dozen injured, but no children hurt. For a Deathstalker attack, it was almost miraculous. As the civilians began moving toward the now safe transport shuttles, many of them stopped to thank Marcus. He accepted their gratitude awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable being the center of attention. A young Velkari girl, maybe 8 years old in human terms, tugged at Marcus's jacket. When he knelt down to her level, she pressed something into his hand, a small carved figure of a warrior. "My grandfather made this," she said in careful galactic standard. "He said warriors who protect others are the most important people in the universe." Marcus looked at the carving for a long moment, then smiled. "Your grandfather sounds like a wise man, but you know what's even more important than warriors?" The girl shook her head. "The people we protect. That's why we exist." As the transport shuttles prepared to depart, Princess Zara approached Marcus one final time. "Your passage to the frontier worlds is approved, of course, but I have to ask, will you be coming back this way?" "Eventually. Atmospheric processors need regular maintenance. When you do, you'll always be welcome in Velkari space, as an honored friend of the Empire." Marcus nodded his thanks and walked toward the shuttle that would take him to his ship. Just before boarding, he turned back. "Your Highness? Those creatures came from somewhere. Someone failed to maintain their containment properly. Might want to have your maintenance staff checked by someone who actually knows what they're doing." Princess Zara watched his shuttle depart, still trying to process everything that had happened. In the space of 2 hours, her understanding of humanity had fundamentally changed. They weren't just peaceful traders and engineers. They were apex predators who had chosen to be something else. The question was, how many more Marcus Chens were out there, quietly maintaining the equipment that kept civilization running? And what would happen if the galaxy ever gave them a reason to remember what they used to be? 3 weeks later, Princess Zara found herself in the most secure briefing room of the Velkari Imperial Intelligence Division, staring at a holographic display that made her question everything she thought she knew about galactic politics. "How long has this information been classified?" she asked Director Voss, an ancient Velkari whose scars spoke of a lifetime spent in intelligence work. "Officially, 23 years. Unofficially, we've been tracking it since first contact with humanity." Voss manipulated the hologram, showing star charts, population data, and military assessments. "Your Highness, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room." The hologram focused on a small, blue-green planet near the edge of human space. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, covered in swirling white clouds and blue oceans. Nothing about it suggested it was one of the most dangerous worlds in the known galaxy. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world," Voss continued. "For comparison, the most hostile environments where other species evolved are Class 7. Earth is literally off the scale of what we thought was survivable." Princess Zara studied the planetary data. The numbers seemed impossible. Average surface temperature varies from -40 to +50 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure that changes with altitude, toxic plant life, and humans evolve there naturally. That's just the beginning. Earth has apex predators in every environment: land, sea, air, underground. Some hunt alone, others in coordinated packs. Many are larger and stronger than adult humans. The planet experiences regular catastrophic events: volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, storms with winds that could flatten cities, floods that reshape continents. How did humans survive long enough to develop intelligence? Voss brought up new data: archaeological records, evolutionary studies, genetic analysis. They didn't just survive, Your Highness. They thrived. Humans are persistence hunters. They would track prey for days across any terrain, never stopping, never giving up. Their prey would eventually collapse from exhaustion. Humans would just keep walking. The hologram showed primitive humans crossing vast distances, carrying tools and working together in ways that other species couldn't match. They developed tool use, language, and cooperative behavior specifically to deal with threats that could kill them individually. Every human is descended from survivors who face down creatures that make Deathstalkers look like domestic pets. Princess Zara thought about Marcus Chen moving through the station's corridors like he belonged there, calmly hunting 3 apex predators with improvised weapons. And they've been hiding this? Not hiding. Choosing. Voss brought up more recent data: human colonies, trade agreements, diplomatic records. When humans reached space, they made a conscious decision about what kind of galactic citizens they wanted to be. They saw how other species related to each other, through fear, dominance, territorial conflict, and chose a different path. But they're still what they evolved to be. Yes, and that's what makes them so effective when they choose to act. Your Highness, our analysts estimate that if humans decided to become a military power instead of a peaceful one, they could conquer half the galaxy within 50 years. The briefing room fell silent. Princess Zara processed this information, remembering Marcus's words. The galaxy thinks humans are peaceful because that's what we choose to be. How many others know this? Military intelligence services of the major powers, some trade guilds who deal with human security contractors, a few academic researchers who study xenobiology. But it's not widely discussed. Humans prefer it that way, and frankly, so do we. Why are you telling me this now? Director Voss changed the holographic display to show recent reports from the frontier worlds. Because something is happening out there, and we need to understand what we're dealing with. 3 major pirate fleets have simply vanished in the last month. No distress signals, no debris, no survivors. The only common factor is that they were all operating near human colonies. Princess Zara felt a chill. You think the humans are responsible? We think someone is removing threats to those colonies very efficiently. The question is whether it's official human military action or something else. The princess thought about Marcus Chen again. How many others like him were out there, supposedly fixing equipment and maintaining infrastructure, but actually standing ready to protect the settlements they served? There's something else, Your Highness. Voss brought up a new file. The maintenance technician who helped on your station, Marcus Chen. We ran a deeper background check after your report. The hologram displayed military service records that made Princess Zara's eyes widen. Colonial Marine Advanced Reconnaissance Division wasn't just elite forces. It was the unit humans sent when they needed to deal with threats that regular military couldn't handle. Marcus's service record read like a catalog of impossible missions. Operation Shadowfall eliminated an entire Krek slaver base single-handedly after his squad was killed. Operation Deep Strike infiltrated a rogue AI facility and shut down 3 military-grade combat androids with improvised weapons. Operation Queensbane tracked and killed a hive queen on a world so toxic that his environmental suit failed after 6 hours. He survived 6 hours on a toxic world without life support? Humans can adapt to extreme environments in ways we don't fully understand. Their physiology has backup systems for their backup systems. But that's not the remarkable part, Your Highness. The remarkable part is that after completing 37 missions with a 100% success rate, Marcus Chen requested transfer to non-combat duties. He spent his last 2 years of service training other humans in equipment maintenance and infrastructure repair. He chose to become a maintenance technician. He chose to become someone who builds instead of someone who destroys. According to his psychological evaluations, he was tired of being a weapon and wanted to become a tool for peace instead. Princess Zara stood and walked to the room's reinforced window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably fixing an atmospheric processor or repairing a water purification system, keeping some frontier colony running. Just another peaceful human doing peaceful work. Director, I want daily reports on the situation in the frontier worlds. and I want to know immediately if any more pirate fleets disappear." "Of course, Your Highness. Should we alert our military commanders about the potential human threat?" Princess Zara considered this carefully. "No. If humans wanted to be conquerors, they'd have started centuries ago. But make sure our people understand that if they encounter humans in dangerous situations, they should pay attention to what those humans do. We might learn something." 2 months later, the reports Director Voss had promised began arriving with disturbing regularity. 7 pirate fleets had vanished without trace. A corporate security force that had been extorting frontier colonies simply disappeared overnight. A slave trading operation that had operated in the outer systems for decades went silent. Their bases found empty except for freed prisoners and a message spray-painted on every wall: "Find a different job." The most revealing report came from a Scarth merchant captain who had been rescued by humans after his ship was attacked by raiders. According to his testimony, a single human transport vessel had engaged 3 pirate frigates and destroyed them all in under 10 minutes. "How?" Princess Zara asked when Director Voss briefed her on the incident. "The transport wasn't what it appeared to be. Hidden weapon systems, military-grade shielding, and maneuvers that should have been impossible for a vessel that size. The Scarth captain said it moved like a fighter craft despite being the size of a cruiser. Modified civilian vessels? More likely purpose-built warships disguised as civilian transports. Your Highness, we're looking at evidence of a human military presence in the frontier worlds that officially doesn't exist." Princess Zara studied the tactical analysis. The human vessels weren't just superior in technology. They fought with strategies and tactics that no other species would have considered. Asymmetric warfare taken to levels that bordered on art form. And the colonies? Are they safer now? Completely. Pirate activity in human-settled systems has dropped to 0. Other threats are avoiding the area entirely. Director Voss paused. "Your Highness, we're receiving reports that several other species are requesting permission to establish colonies near human settlements. They feel safer there." That evening, Princess Zara sat in her private chambers, reviewing the intelligence reports and thinking about the implications. Humans had created safe zones in the galaxy's most dangerous regions simply by being what they evolved to be when they needed to be. Her personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. The sender was listed as M. Chen, Atmospheric Systems Maintenance. "Your Highness, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to thank you again for your hospitality and to let you know that I've completed my work on the Kepler 7 colony. Their atmospheric processors are running at full efficiency, and I've trained their local technicians to handle routine maintenance. I'll be moving on to the Tau Ceti system next week. They're having trouble with their water purification systems. I wanted to mention that I noticed some unusual readings in your station's environmental systems during my visit. Nothing immediately dangerous, but you might want to have someone check the atmospheric recyclers in Section D. Sometimes small problems become big problems if they're ignored. I hope your empire continues to prosper, and I look forward to traveling through Velkari space again someday. Respectfully, Marcus Chen, Certified Atmospheric Systems Technician." Princess Zara smiled despite herself. Even in a casual message, Marcus was offering help and showing concern for others' welfare. She wondered how many problems he solved that no one ever knew about. How many threats he dealt with quietly so others could sleep safely. She drafted a reply. "Mr. Chen, thank you for your concern about our environmental systems. I'll have them checked immediately. I hope your work continues to go well, and I want you to know that you'll always be welcome in Velkari space. Your passage will be cleared through all Imperial checkpoints, and if you ever need assistance, you need only ask. Safe travels. Princess Zara of the Velkari Empire." After sending the message, she made a note in her personal journal. "Today I learned that sometimes the most dangerous predator in the galaxy is the one who chooses to be a protector instead. Humans are not what they appear to be, and that may be the most fortunate thing that has ever happened to the rest of us. 6 months later, Princess Zara received an official request from the Frontier Worlds Coalition. They wanted to establish formal trade agreements with the Velkhari Empire, with security guarantees for merchant vessels traveling through the outer systems. The coalition's representative was a human diplomat named Sarah Martinez, a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile who reminded Princess Zara of a kindergarten teacher more than a government official. "Your Highness," Sarah said during their first meeting, "the Frontier Worlds would like to offer our services as neutral arbitrators for trade disputes, and we can guarantee safe passage for all civilian vessels through our space. And how exactly would you guarantee safe passage through the galaxy's most dangerous region?" Sarah's smile didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes that reminded Princess Zara of Marcus Chen. "Your Highness, the Frontier Worlds may be far from the galactic core, but we've learned to take care of ourselves and our neighbors. We've found that most threats in space are just bullies who've never met anyone willing to stand up to them." Princess Zara approved the trade agreement that same day. As she watched Sarah Martinez's shuttle depart, she reflected on how much her understanding of the galaxy had changed. Humans weren't the peaceful, harmless species that everyone believed them to be. They were apex predators who had evolved on a death world, developed technology that could reshape star systems, and possessed military capabilities that could threaten established galactic powers. And they used all of that power to fix atmospheric processors, mediate trade disputes, and make sure children could sleep safely at night. Princess Zara decided that if the rest of the galaxy ever learned the truth about humanity, they would discover that the most terrifying thing about humans wasn't their capacity for violence. It was their capacity for choosing something better. The princess never saw Marcus Chen again, but she followed the reports of his work throughout the Frontier Worlds, colonies with failing life support systems that suddenly ran perfectly, settlements that had been struggling with equipment failures that became models of efficiency, and always, wherever Marcus worked, the same pattern. Dangerous predators in the area either disappeared entirely or learned to avoid human settlements. Years later, when Princess Zara became Empress of the Velkhari Empire, one of her first official acts was to establish the Marcus Chen Memorial Scholarship for young engineers from developing worlds. The scholarship provided funding for students who wanted to learn infrastructure maintenance and system repair. The real Marcus Chen, still very much alive and still fixing atmospheric processors throughout the galaxy, sent her a brief thank you message when he heard about the scholarship. He was honored, he said, but confused about why anyone would name an educational program after a maintenance technician. Empress Zara never bothered to explain. Some secrets were worth keeping, especially when they protected the guardians who protected everyone else. In the end, she had learned that the galaxy's most dangerous predator was also its most essential protector. And that was exactly how Marcus Chen and his people preferred it.